Well, there's two things I know for sure. First is, I'm definitely not a professional welder, but I think my shop stool is going to stick together. The second thing is, I'm not a Bible scholar, and that's what I want to talk about in this episode. So, let me get out of this hot, sweaty stuff and we'll get on with it. Now, you would think that I would know a lot about the Bible because of my upbringing, which I talked about in episode number 1, I believe. And also, I didn't mention that after I was finished with high school, I went to Bible school. That's right. Only 1 year, though. I didn't do too well. I worked in the print shop there to sort of help reduce my tuition, and I was far more interested in working in the print shop than I was memorizing Bible verses, I'm afraid. I didn't apply myself like I should have. However, after I was through with that first year of Bible school, and when I came to Winnipeg after the summer job at the summer resort, for 8 years I worked almost full-time at a Skid Row rescue mission. And yeah, that's what I did. Then I got married, started working at the Winnipeg bus depot, and I worked there for, well, since 1973. However, with my background, you would think I would know more about the Bible than I do. Anyway, about the comment that was made after episode number 6. Well, I had several comments. Thank you, by the way. But one of them was from somebody who goes to Mary's church. And he felt that I shouldn't have speculated when I talked about why King Saul and his people did what they did. In other words, why they most likely killed everybody, or almost everybody. So anyway, I want to back up and start right at the beginning. Now, I haven't read this story for probably over 40 years. So I may not get the beginning right, because I've only just sort of read the middle yesterday. And that was about the part that where Samuel was told by God to tell King Saul to kill everybody and destroy everything of the Amalekites. So we'll sort of back up at the beginning of Samuel. It's in the book of Samuel. And people generally, the consensus is that Samuel wrote most of Samuel. Surprise, right? Anyway, yeah. Now I hope I'm getting this right, because it's just from memory. I think that Samuel, when he was a little kid, was abandoned by his parents at the temple. And he was raised by the head honcho there, whose name was Eli. I think I got that right. I'm sure that if I'm wrong, people are going to be quick to correct me. However, the story goes that one night, Samuel, when he was quite young, he heard somebody calling him, and he thought it was Eli. So he goes, and Eli says, "I didn't call you." So Samuel goes back to bed. No, I'm speculating, I think. And again, he hears this voice. He goes to Eli, and Eli says, "I didn't call you." The third time that this happens, Eli thinks, well, that's strange, because Samuel really thinks somebody called him, and then Eli thinks, hey, I wonder if that's God. So he suggests to Samuel that maybe it's God calling you, so the next time, next time you hear the voice, answer to God. So if I remember the story right, when God calls again, or at least maybe we should say when Samuel hears the voice, Samuel says, and it's been like over 40 years since I've heard this phrase, but it's something like, "Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth." I think I got that right. Anyway, that's what happened. That was the early part of Samuel's life. Then he grew up, and obviously Samuel was a pretty bright cookie. The reason I know that is because he ended up being the head honcho over the entire land. Now you're going to say, hey, wait a minute, I thought King Saul was the head honcho, but Samuel had the authority and the power to make or break kings. So guess who's the head honcho, right? And story goes that Samuel came to King Saul and said, and I'm sort of paraphrasing again, this is the version according to Ron Calverley, he says, God told me to tell you to go and kill all the Amalekites, all of them, men, women, children, babies, and destroy their livestock, and just wreck everything. So, and the reason they wanted to do that was apparently because the Amalekites gave the Israelites a hard time when they were coming out of Egypt. So the story goes that King Saul and his army goes in there, and they do kill everybody except one person, and that was the king of the Amalekites. They spared him. Everybody else, according to the Bible, they put to the sword. Everybody, according to the story. Now, what they did not do was completely destroy all the livestock and everything. They kept some of the Bible story goes that they kept some of the better stuff. In other words, they looted. So they brought the loot back. Samuel finds out about this. He's upset because Saul didn't do what he said. I don't know. Again, I'm going to speculate. Did God really say that? Or was Samuel on a power trip and kind of upset because Saul didn't do what he said? After all, you got to remember that Saul was made by Samuel, and I hope I'm coming across here. So anyway, the story goes that Samuel told Saul, now because you disobeyed God and didn't do what I said that God said to do, you're not going to be king anymore, or something to that effect. And the story also says that Samuel took a sword and hacked to pieces the king of the Amalekites himself. And that's as far as I read. Anyway, the young fellow that commented, he felt that I shouldn't have speculated, because I don't know. However, when you come up to something that like this, where the story that God told Samuel to do this, it's just preposterous. The fact that there was a king named Saul, yes, I believe that. The fact that there was a person named Samuel, I believe that too. And the fact that Samuel may have gone to King Saul and said, God told me to tell you to do these things, I believe that may have happened. And most of the story I believe. The part I just can't believe is that God would tell Samuel to tell Saul to do this. It just does not make sense. As in the old Gunsmoke series, as Festus used to say to Matt Dillon, it's mind-boggling. Now, some of you probably aren't old enough to know what I'm talking about. However, it's mind-boggling. It defies all logic. So, the saying, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck and looks like a duck and swims like a duck, it's probably a duck. Well, this is so illogical, it's probably it's so illogical, it's probably not true. Am I making sense? I think so. Now, in my reply to the fellow who made the comment, I sort of gave the scenario. Let's assume that, say, some big country like the United States was going to went into North Korea and completely devastated everything and everybody except for Kim Jong-un or whatever his name is. They brought him back. Everybody else they killed. Everybody. But then they looted a little bit and they brought some of the spoils back. And later on, CNN has got a news conference going, and somebody says, don't you think you went a little bit too far there? You killed everybody except for one person. And the President of the United States says, well, we felt led of the Lord to do that. Say what? Who's going to believe that? Well, that's what this story is trying to get you to believe. That God said that? And that's where I have a problem. That's where me and the fundamentalists part company. It is just too utterly ridiculous, too improbable. So I speculate. I think things like Samuel was the type of person who heard voices, by his own admission. The history account that we read was written by Samuel. As far as I know, it was written after the fact. There's another old saying, history is written by the victors. So when I put all these things together, I just have to come to the conclusion that yes, part of the story is true, but I don't know. I'm beating a dead horse here. I just don't know what to say here. I'm lost for words. I'm sorry, but I just can't swallow it. And the person that made the comment, he said, well, the important thing that you have to remember is that they didn't do what they were told. The king didn't do what he was told to do back in the Bible times, over 3,000 years ago, I guess. I think it was just over 3,000 years ago that this all is supposed to have taken place. And I think the point he was trying to make is that the king was punished because he didn't do what God told him to do. I think the king was punished because Samuel was mad at him. There I go, speculating again. But what else are you going to do when you're up against a scenario like that is so utterly, profoundly ridiculous? You have to conclude it's parts of it aren't true. Now, I know the fundamentalists are going to disagree with me, maybe vehemently. Some people are going to be mad at me because I'm sort of tramping on their toes again, and they've traditionally believed that this is the way it was written. Yeah. Okay, so I know I sounded a little bit breathless and excited there. Well, there's a reason for that. I was breathless and excited. I've calmed down a little bit. And I was thinking, how did this series get started? Well, I'm going to blame the people that said you couldn't have rubber tires on your tractor. Well, not really, but you know where I'm going. it just sort of grew. And if you start thinking about one thing that's wrong, you sort of all of a sudden start finding a whole bunch of stuff that's wrong. It's probably why the fundamentalists will stay fundamental, because then they don't dare let themselves think about these things, because they know it can end up right here. There's people thinking, Ron, you came up against the Bible? Well, yes and no. I'm clinging to the salvation part, and I'm not going to elaborate. That's me. I'm clinging to the salvation part of the Bible, and I'm letting the rest of these silly things that are obviously wrong go. I'm not going to comment anymore. This will be the last episode. You're welcome to make comments. I will not reply to your comments, but I will read them. Thank you. One thing I am curious of, though, and that is this story in Samuel, the book of Samuel. I'm pretty sure that it's also in the Catholic Bible. It's in the Hebrew Bible. I don't think they call it a Bible. If you're of the Jewish background and faith, just let me know what you call your Bible. I think it's the Torah. I think it might even be in the Muslim Bible, and I don't know what the Muslim Bible is called. If you're Muslim, please comment, let me know. If you're not Muslim, don't comment. I just want people who really are of a particular faith to comment, and then I know that it's genuine or correct. Anyway, I think this series is pretty well over. I can't think of anything I want to add. It went on way too long. It got way out of hand. I want to get my shop stool finished. This I know for sure exists. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for putting up with me.